Good morning, everyone. I welcome you today in the Egyptian Center for Economic Studies in the workshop number 5 of the group of workshops related to digitization of digital economy. And if anybody here is from the first time, we have held a group of workshops to discuss the digitization, because all the country is going forward in this direction, but we still don't know what we are talking about. Even some elements in the government don't know. So the objective of the group of workshops is to come up with a very clear agenda on the things that needs to be analyzed deeply, or things that needs to be invested in, things that need to be modified. So we have all the corners or the pillars of the whole issue with a certain matrix that it has already been displayed to you or sent to you. This is the strategic orientation or approach of the center here. So we are focusing here all what achieves sustainable development on the sound basis, so that it will gather together the efficiency and also social justice. One of them will not, economic efficiency will not work on its own, but it has to be social justice. So these are the group of workshops that we are holding. And we started with it with the Ministry of Communication and Ministry of Planning. It's not under the auspices or adopted by or so and so. The idea that they have been with us since the beginning, and they sent their advisors in different fields that we are discussing. Because our objective is to know what we should be doing in order to continue with the whole picture, so that we will be able to achieve digitization in the right way. So this is not just something, so we are starting with the 2 ministries, and we will end up with the 2 ministries, because after all of these groups of workshops, we will hold a conference to be attended by all the ministries and other ministries, so that we will say that what's missing and this is missing, and this could be done by this entity, and this could be done by other entity, and this needs a research or so and so. And all what we are doing will reveal all the investment opportunities available in this field, because some investors will come and say, we need to invest in the digital economy sector. We should have an answer for all of this, and this is the objective behind this exercise. So we are really happy today to have 2 workshops, the 5th workshop and the 6th workshop, and in the middle will be a break. And then under the horizontal issues, the first workshop that we will start today is related to the overall regulatory framework of digitization, I'm really happy to have today my dear colleague, Dr. Nedal Said. He is a member of the parliament, and I will introduce him. And then we have also Dr. Mohamed Hegazy, who is the head of the legislative committee in the Ministry of MCIT. And then we have engineer Mohamed Ibrahim, who is in charge of the prosecution at the NTRA. So I need to introduce all the speakers in the right way now. Dr. Said is a member of the parliament. He has a PhD in economic and political science from Cairo University. He was the head of the MCIT committee, and he did a good work in the committee. And he is also a consultant in sustainable development and also information system consultant also. So in all parts he is related. And then Dr. Mohamed Hegazy, he is the head of the legislation committee and the head of the intellectual property committee in the MCIT, and he has more than 20-year experience in law and in the information systems, including electronic signatures and electronic crimes and protection of personal personal data. So he is in the core of things, because the idea of intellectual property needs a separate workshop, because we need to talk about. And he has also participated with many studies and research entities, and he is a lecturer in many entities. And then Engineer Mohamed Ibrahim, he is a supervisor of the prosecution of NTRA, and he is the head of the Central Department for Licenses, and he has participated in in the issuance of many of licenses of all mobile phone companies, and he is also head of the committee for the payment through mobile phones. So we have all the specialized speakers here. So we always start at the beginning with the government. So and we tell the government what are the initiatives that you have done in this field, and we are very specific about the legal framework. What do we have? And then we will move to someone outside the government and tell him, what do you think about this? And is this enough or sufficient, or do we need something more? So we'll start today with Dr. Mohamed Hegazy. Good morning. I'm really happy to be with you today and thank Dr. Abla for this generous invitation. And we are here today to discuss the legislative framework of digitization. I will present quickly what the Ministry of MCIT is doing and what we are participating at the level of legislation and regulation in this field. Maybe you know that Egypt is a bit lagging behind in issuing legislations related to organizing digitization and organizing the information sector in general. We have started in the year 2003 in organizing the regulatory agency, and we have started the work on the electronic signatures because we had directions or instructions for all entities. She told me that we don't have to say that everything is okay. She told me before, because we have some deficiency or some limitations in the legislations, because there was no mandate on the government to start on the electronic signature. And you always know that it is always the government that takes everything behind it, or that always in the forefront and starts any issue. So that was one of the challenges. And we are trying to avoid some of these challenges in other regulatory issues. And after this, we had another challenge related to the electronic crimes law, all the cyber security, or what they call information security. Last year we were able to finish the idea of the law of electronic crimes, and from my point of view this has made a great shift in digitization, because until the August 13th of 2018 there was no adoption or no admission or acknowledgement of digital evidences. So until that date there was no crime for stealing the numbers of credit cards or debit cards, any kind of payment cards, anything related to banks. And this is one of the issues that's very important, that pushes towards the electronic crimes. And there was no criminalization of hacking, and there was no criminalization of any hacking in different information technology systems, whether private sector or public sector. So maybe I am not supposed here to present the law here, but I'll just give you a quick example, and then maybe we can later discuss the details. There is a very important point here in this law, that some of the obligations that we have started to put on all the entities and all the persons or individuals, whether private or public, to increase the level of protection of information systems. And this was able to achieve a lot of objectives. The first one is we need to increase the level of protection and achieve cyber security that entities would like to know or require to have, so that there will be trust in electronic transactions in general. And the other part is related to governance. And there should be a governance system inside all these different entities from the perspective of information technology. And also we need to protect the confidentiality of the information of the data of people using such systems. This is a quick overview, but maybe a very quick overview of the law. We have started another draft law, which is another part of the triangle that we are working on, or another side, the one which is related to protection of personal data, because you all know that the digital data is very important and all the world is interested in it. And maybe in the 25th of May 2018 there was a dramatic change of having the GDPR, which is the European regulation for protection of personal data, and there was a big problem in the whole world on the transaction or the transfer of the data of citizens, whether their personal data, and how to protect it, and how far can this affect a lot of sectors, a whole sector. So it will affect the sectors that will be affected, could be tourism, could be hotels, could be aviation, because they are dealing with the personal data of citizens at a large scale. And this requires that we should look at how to regulate such a kind of protection and how to give rights to citizens so that their data will not be collected, and they will find that the German company for insecticides will send such a kind of data for us, just like what happens to all of us. So this is one of the points that should be included in the draft law. And also in this draft law we have regulated the controllers' obligations and how to process such kind of data, and we have put all the limits, whether technical and regulatory and legal, in order to protect data and the rights of citizens or individuals or the owner of such data, so that his data will not be collected or will not be transacted or not be processed until he approves it. And we have also regulated the marketing, the electronic marketing that happens using personal data. And by this will be achieving the second part or the second side. And then the third side is a draft law, which we are working on it now, and maybe it will be presented to the Prime Minister by the end of the second quarter of 2019, which is the electronic transactions draft law. In the digitization, from the cash economy to be cashless economy, and all the financial transactions will happen through banks or through the payment instruments which are electronic. And we have also participated in issuing a law which is very important, and we are working on the executive regulation of this law, which is related on how to regulate what we call land transport using information technology, which is Uber and Karim. And this is one of the very models, very limited models that's available in the whole world, because we know that regulating land transport, especially Uber, because Uber has lots of challenges in the whole world, and there is a very small number of countries that started to issue some regulations related to how these companies will work and how to keep the data of the citizens. And and adding them to the tax system, for example. So the law was issued, and we are currently working on the executive regulation of the Ministry of Transport and with other entities. And we are also working on the executive regulation of the law on how to combat the crimes of information technology. And in this regulation, we are trying to maximize the benefiting from the law and increase the level of protection, and also increase the topics related to how to regulate governance inside the different entities through some of the legal text included into the executive regulations. I guess I have covered the part related to the general framework of the legislations done by the MCIT or the government in general. We have Engineer Mohamed. Ibrahim, would you like to add anything? In the name of God, I'm really honored to be here in the Egyptian Center for Economic Studies. Maybe it's the first time for me to attend with you here today. I have been working in the NTRA for 18 years, and this is in charge of regulating the communication sector that deals with the companies, try to develop the sector from the infrastructure point of view, and it gives licenses to the companies and also controls the quality of the service and the prices. One of the most important parts in the digitization is to have an infrastructure and the legislative framework be adequate to what we are talking about, because we are talking about services, and at the end we will find that the infrastructure and the companies that provide the service cannot provide the service in the right way that we would like to have. So what the NTRA did is that we are the first, one of the first countries that has introduced the 3G, and it allows for more speed that through which we can provide all the services. And we have introduced G4 in the year 2016, and now all the companies provide G4. So all of this allows us to be able to provide the services of digitization. Now all the network will be transferred into fiber optics. I will not go into details, but I'm just giving a quick overview of the technical part that the ministry is working on and the NTRA is working on. We have a very good plan on how to reach our objective. The other regulatory part or legislative part that Dr. Mohamed talked about, I really agree with him on all what he said, because he is one of the very persistent people at all levels, so that we will be able to finish all these regulations, so that we have a good legislative environment or an ecosystem, so that all the ministers can provide the systems that we are talking about. But I would like to comment on something which is the last one, which is the cashless payment. From our point of view, after the digitization is done, if we don't have a law that allows a person to pay all his payments in a cashless way, we will have a problem then. And we are really lagging behind in that, because there are many African companies, and we have seen before that have exceeded us or started before us. We started this in the year 2013 along with the CBE and NTRA. So we are trying to reduce cash so that all the payments will be done cashless. We have started with the payment through the mobile phone systems. Now we have 11 million subscribers in such a kind of service. The active are very few, because some people still don't know how to use the system, but we need to, only 5% are active. And lastly, we only the cashless payment was only issued 2 days ago, and it has lots of details that will try to go us with this system, because we have to deal with all of the billing, all the things related to governments, and all these entities has to do its payments in a cashless way, and even if exceeded a certain limit, it has to be cashless, along with all the ministries and the Prime Minister's office or the cabinet. So any entities, all these entities along with the ministry are working in these directions, and how to solve all these problems, because we know that there is a lot of problems in the infrastructure, in the quality of services provided, and in providing the services to the companies, and even in the prices. But we have a plan in how to reach our objective in the fastest way, and I'm really welcome to any questions and queries if you may have. What's your comment, Dr. Nedal? In the name of God, I will thank Dr. Abla for her generous invitation, and thank you for attending. Knowing Dr. Mohamed and Engineer Mohamed in the parliament, and we started to be friends, but sometimes we have different point of view, so please allow me to show you our differences or disagreements. We are really behind. We are lagging behind in the legislations, and when I say that we are late in the legislations, it means that we have an objective, and the legislations is the one that will help us reach such objective. Actually, all of us, we are keen to move from the point that we are in now to a better point. The whole world has reached digitization, but now we are still in a certain point, and we are stuck there for a long time. The legislations are very slow. The infrastructure is still very, very slow in its building. So when can we say that in Egypt has reached the phase that we want? At least we have something which we call an interim objective, an objective to be achieved next year or the following year, and how we deal with the stakeholders. I know that very well that the MCIT plays an important role, but it's not the only player in this sector or this field. There are lots of ministries that has to support the MCIT. At the time of Engineer Yasser Qadi, and then the Minister Yasser Qadi, and then Minister Amr Talat. And I'm saying that we need a lot of issues, which is the infrastructure, or the legislative infrastructure. In 2018, the criminal electronic crimes law was issued, and it has given us a step to cover a lot of things afterwards. This law has stipulated that the executive regulation should be issued within 3 months. So the law was issued in August 2018, and now it has been 6 months and it hasn't been issued. So has the executive regulation been issued? The executive law hasn't been issued yet. So maybe it's still stuck in the drawers, or sometimes it's still there. And in the same way, the executive regulations of other laws. So we have the law of how to use the technology systems in land transport, which is called Uber and Karim law. Until now, many companies can still go and invest in Egypt. And investment means that we will have work opportunities. So until now, the executive regulation hasn't been issued of this law. So it is really important to have this executive regulation to be issued, because it will put the rules for how people will work. So if you go a step forward of the electronic crimes, one of the things that the companies has to regulate or modify its situations in order to adapt to the system. So the companies has to take backup for the last 6-month period. So anything will be required from them by the executive regulations, because if it started to work within a year and were able to modify their conditions, and the executive regulations have certain stipulations, he has to change the way he is working. And also the electronic information, because we have a certain law related to information, because now we don't have the traditional information. We have the electronic information, which is prevailing now. So we have taken, in the electronic information system, we have taken 2 articles that Mr. Mohamed talked about. And as far as the cashless transactions, it will make us reach the financial inclusion. We cannot reach this unless you have a good infrastructure and you have good orientation or approach from the government to let you reach this. This financial inclusion will never be affected unless the banks started to get rid of the use of papers. using papers by the banks will postpone the idea of achieving financial inclusion. We are talking with the Ministry of Investment, we are talking with the CBE in the cashless transactions law. So I am asking the question, where we want to go and who has the answer? Is it the MCIT, because it is the one in charge of working on this, or there are many other entities that can give us certain dates, and these certain dates should be binding. So if they say that the executive regulation will be issued within 3 months, it has to be issued within 3 months. So within 3 to 4 years, we'll move from this phase to the other phase. Otherwise, the law, which is like the law of information crimes, can face the idea of prescription, of a statute of limitation. So maybe we have to finish it before we start working on it or having it operative. The part we want to talk about is the infrastructure. We are all complaining from the infrastructure and the internet and the TE that I am talking about, the government companies. If there happen one day that we will have high-speed internet, but when? So the word when needs a clear answer, and we should know the date later on, so that, because me as a House of Representatives, we come back with the background of the street persons, but at least we need to know that by the end of this year things should be done. But we have to say that we will be doing this, and after we finish this we will go to the other phase. So there are other things also related to this issue. We came with the Association of Regulating the Communication. We talked about managing databases, and this is something very important and pivotal. The president in the Alexandria conference, they have announced that they will manage all the databases, and we brought the people in the House of Representatives, and they said that we have 38 databases, and we will not just link it, we'll do some sort of communication between them. And there will be some sort of central, whether in the Administrative Control Authority or any other entity, and now it has been more than a year and since it has been announced and nothing happened. So we are saying that if something hasn't been done here and has been finished here, we will not expect that we will reach what we aim at unless we had specific deadlines. Who will be doing it? And who will be submitting it to whom? So I'm afraid that maybe the work of Dr. Mohamed is done while it is related to someone else who is handicapping the work. So we need to know who is in charge of what and when he will doing it, so that at the end we know that what has been done, whether at this phase, whether these are final objectives or interim objectives. So we need from Dr. Abla, we need from you, we need clear answers. We need someone to tell us that on the day of the 15th, Egypt will achieve such a big leap. And what's required from us as a House of Representatives, and then we will issue it. But I'm really suffering from the idea of waiting on something that has certain deadlines and it's not done. And we don't have a certain section to impose. Because when we say that the executive regulations will be issued within 3 months, it has to be done at that time. Or you can tell me that it's stuck with Dr. Mohamed, for example, and then I can handle this. So it's not only you that need a deadline. We need a deadline.